wealth of the 1% just hit a record $44 trillion. Since 2020, the wealth of the top 1% has increased by 49%. Can you imagine? Most of this is because of gains in the stock market, by the way. The 1% are very heavily invested in the stock market. According to the report, the top 10% of Americans own 87% of all individually held stocks and mutual funds. The top 1% own half of the stock market. So when you see reporting on the stock market, what you're really seeing is reporting on, stuff of interest and whatnot, concern to the top 1%. Although a lot of middle class and lower income people do have, a couple $1,000 or a little bit of money in a 401k or an IRA or whatever. But those households in the top 1/3 of the income distribution account for approximately 2/3 of consumer spending. So what does this tell us? Well, the main thing is that the very rich are getting much, much richer, much more rapidly than anybody else. Now, the good news in this, I suppose, is that in the last 2 years, what we've seen under Joe Biden is that the wages of working class people are actually increasing very rapidly, faster than they have since the 1960s. In large part because of increased unionization, in large part because of Biden just talking about the importance of it, and employees demanding some response to inflation. Employee pay is actually increasing faster than inflation right now in the United States. I don't know how long that's going to last. I mean, inflation's down to 3%. So, but this is a good economy right now. It's just we need to bring back the taxes. We need to roll back the Trump tax cut, the Bush tax cuts, and the Reagan tax cuts. If we did that, we could have the prosperity that we had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s again, where we had average GDP growth every decade between 3% and 4%. Now we're an average decade ever since the Reagan tax cuts has been between 2% and 3%. So we could get back to that, and wouldn't that be a good thing? Also, a number of Republican billionaires are starting to back away, who had previously backed away from Trump, are starting to go towards him. This story over in the Washington Post starts out by talking about this one particular billionaire, Nelson Peltz, who had said, "No way I'll support Trump," after one of Trump's more absurd things. And now, he just had a meeting with Trump along with Steve Wynn and Elon Musk and Isaac Perlmutter, and in Palm Beach, and now he says he'll probably vote for him, and he may well give him money. It's starting to look, now that Trump is basically the Republican nominee and the polls seem to be favoring him, the right-wing billionaires are starting to come out of their hibernation and throw money at Donald Trump. And in fact, Trump himself is sitting down and calling them. So this is a comment that was made by Catherine Wyde, the CEO of the Partnership for New York City, which is the top lobbying group. She said the billionaire class is really threatened by Biden. These guys are about creating a dynasty of wealth for themselves and hoarding it for their posterity at the expense of everyone else in society. I'm sorry, this is Steve Rosenthal, senior fellow at the Tax Policy Center. He said that's the striking story at the moment. And in Silicon Valley, some of these very wealthy people who were, just horrified by January 6th and said, "Oh, that Trump, we'll never follow him again." They're all coming back and saying, "Oh yeah, we'll give money to Trump. Keep our taxes low." That's what they want. Meanwhile, the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, the Democratic governor, will not get to pick the replacement for Mitch McConnell, as governors typically do, as Kentucky law right now calls for, because the Kentucky legislature is controlled by Republicans, and with a supermajority, they just passed a law saying that if McConnell has to step down, there will be a special election so that he will be replaced by another Republican, presumably, although Beshear is a Democrat, and he was elected statewide. So even though both, Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell, both of Kentucky's senators, are Republicans, it is possible that a Democrat could win a statewide race. Because a Democrat who did win a statewide race is sitting in the governor's office right now. It's just the damn gerrymandering. But gerrymandering doesn't matter in a Senate race. Senate race is statewide. So gerrymandering shows up in the House races. So anyway, an awful lot there. I'll pick up your calls on the other side of this break. It's Anything Goes Friday. I'll be right back with you. Stay tuned. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where smart people get their news.